Well, what a way to kick off spring today. No other than the launch of a new slick marketing story for one of our finest foods, honey. Now, on Monday, the New Zealand Story Project, funded in part through Trade and Enterprise and developed by Apiculture New Zealand, has made a toolkit of marketing resources available to honey producers who want to market their products internationally. The launch of the New Zealand Honey Story has been welcomed as a good start by the industry, but more will be needed to help boost sales of growing honey stocks around the country. Joining us now to discuss is CE for Apiculture New Zealand, Karin Kos. Now, Karin, is this a silver bullet for positioning New Zealand honey globally, or as we said in the intro, there is more to do, and what?
So look, for us, we have done it superbly with, profiling Manuka honey on the international marketplace, which has been a real boost for New Zealand, for our exports, for honey exports. But really, there are a whole range of other wonderful New Zealand honeys that we don't talk about, that we haven't profiled as much. And we think it's really time to put the spotlight on those honeys. So honeys like Rewa, like Pahutakawa, like Rata, these are wonderful honeys. They come from New Zealand, they're unique to New Zealand. And I guess it's really about showcasing the whole range and giving, as you said, giving our industry really simple but great quality tools to be able to do that.
For those who have been watching and listening from the start, you would have heard the video played earlier. And for those listening or watching just this interview, please search on YouTube. It is a great video, New Zealand Honey Story, into YouTube. As you just said there, taste differentials is something similar in our wine industry. Things like Te Wā, and I know in Central Otago, I was raised on Viper Blue Goss from the high country. How do you encourage more regional collectives and individual companies to tell that story?
So that's a big issue and challenge for us. It's about getting a more collective approach to perhaps how we market our honey. We're a small country on the global stage. We punch above our weight, but I would like to see our industry take a more collective approach, particularly, like you say, on a regional basis. We have different honeys in different regions, and I think there's a real opportunity, and we are starting to see some of those companies do that, and some regions do that, to take a more regional approach to how they could promote their honeys. And I think that's going to be more impactful for them as well.
What can we take from our learnings around intellectual property with Manuka and how we can pair with iwi to have those very unique names? Because I know that's where our cheese and our wine industries are now at threat with geographical indicators. And how can we protect it moving forward?
So we've been very fortunate as an industry that we have worked very closely with iwi and with government to get some considerable funding to start looking at how we protect the term Manuka from New Zealand, Manuka honey. And so I think there's a fair amount of work, and a lot of work's already gone into looking at how we could do that. And again, it's that collective approach, Sarah. It's working with industry, it's working with iwi, it's getting the support of our government to really push that intellectual property and ownership rights around the word Manuka honey. And I'm really pleased that we've actually seen that make a good, there's a good start to that whole process.
Okay, so in other sectors of our food and beverage in this country, red meat and wool, we've seen a marketing levy approach. Now, the beekeeping industry have not particularly supported an industry commodity levy. How do you believe that you can raise that considerable marketing spend needed to collectively approach and fund New Zealand honey?
So as you point out, we did go for a levy a few years ago. We weren't successful. I think the environment's changed since then. I think we're now in an environment where we actually do have significant stockpiles of honey. People are looking at how we move those honey stockpiles, but also how beekeepers can have a sustainable living. And so the whole purpose and idea around a commodity levy is that the industry develops funds and grows funds, like the wine industry's done, like other primary sector industries have done, to build a collective amount of funding that can really take a national view and really support our beekeepers and our industry. It's something I'm very keen to see progress, but it's going to take time. We've got to make sure that all beekeepers are on side with how that could work, how we could fund that. So I think there's still a way away, but I think I can certainly see some movement there and some interest in the industry taking a more collective approach.
For those who are not aware around commodity prices for the different types of honey, what is that gap between Manuka and the other varietals?
Look, it does depend on the other varietals, but we've seen, I guess, a drop of around sort of 50 to 70% for those non-Manuka honeys. So I think that's probably the drop that we've seen over the last couple of years. So we're looking at how we can, I guess, just raise the profile, but also try and get that premium for those other honeys so that they are a little bit more equitable and essentially that our beekeepers do have a sustainable long-term secure future because, as an agricultural nation, we need bees. We need bees for pollination services. They're critical to this country. So we've got to make sure that beekeepers have a viable future.
And let's talk about the 1st of September, a very important day in launching Bee Aware Month. Can you tell us more about that?
So Apiculture New Zealand has established this Bee Aware Month for a few years now, and it grows and grows in popularity. Kiwis love their bees. They really want to support their bees, and they really want to understand how they can do that. So this is all about a month of focus on bees, what you can do to protect them, how you can, for example, spray safely, not spray at all, but avoid the flowers, avoid spraying at the time when plants are flowering. So it's really an awareness campaign, an education campaign. But what I love about it is we get a lot of school kids involved, we get communities involved, we get councils involved, and it's really clear that New Zealanders love their bees. What can we do to protect them? What can we do to, I guess, educate and raise awareness about the critical role they play, as we said, in pollination, but also as a great food source, just in terms of the environment. So this is the spotlight on bees and honey this month, Sarah.
Excuse the pun, but what are you doing in regards to cross-pollination across the sector with our livestock industry, our arable sector, to be able to raise awareness for them to be aware of their impacts on bees?
Look, what I've loved about working in the primary sector is that we are so much more, connected as a primary sector. So, for example, I'm part of the CE's primary sector farming group, and we meet regularly. So these sorts of things get discussed around the table. So it is actually these guys and these organisations are really aware of the importance of bees. I certainly talk about it to them, but they are very aware of it and really supportive. So I think there's a growing understanding and awareness that we all need to understand our roles and understand how bees can support those sectors as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Karin. And of course, best wishes with, as you said, a growing Bee Aware Month, which is the month of September. For our listeners and viewers, is there anything that they can do to reach out and support our bee nation this month?
So look, if you're gardening, plant lots of flowers, plant lots of colours. We've also talked about, you don't need to mow your lawn as much. Let a few things like clover and dandelions come through. Bees love that. So it's just about providing the environment for bees so they have access to good nectar sources.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks for the advice. Karin Kos is the CE for Apiculture New Zealand. And of course, as we were discussing in the introduction, have a look at the New Zealand Honey Story, which you can find on YouTube. For those interested in how they can access that toolkit, if you are a honey producer in the industry, head to New Zealand Story. I utilise this a lot for our business, and you register, and all of that's there for free. Beautiful photography, beautiful videos, and you can utilise that in your marketing to position your story and the New Zealand honey story globally to be the best in the world that we know it is. This is Sarah's Country.